starts at NetApp. So I think that I've always been a community builder, but never used that term because the term was always very scary to me. At NetApp, I actually I started an organization called Bagel. I forgot what it stood for, but at the time at 23, it sounded really cute. I went to every engineering leader and I was like, I need budget for Bagel. And they were like, what are you doing? But somehow I convinced these people to give me like $10,000 to start a new college grad program at NetApp. So NetApp has a new college grad program. And by definition, it had recruiters that would hire, this cohort of new college graduates, whether it's undergrad, master's, PhD, right? So they had a system that said, you are new to this, like you just finished a degree of some sort. But I remember at NetApp, like we didn't have any get-togethers. So like we didn't know each other, and we'd always be up and down in the hallways, like look at each other like, yeah, based on the number of wrinkles that you may or may not have, we may have the same experience in the world. Right? Like they didn't formally put us together. We didn't have like a mentorship program. We didn't have like a monthly series with leadership where the leader would come and talk to us about stuff. And I was just tired. I was lonely. I didn't know what to do with my job. Remember, I came up not knowing how to do my job. But more importantly, I was adulting. And I think any kid at 22 understands this very strange feeling of adulting. It is stressful. It sucks. And I hated it. And I'm so glad I'm over it, right? Of just like, what are taxes? How do I fix my car? So rent's actually due on the 1st of the month, like not the 7th. Okay, right? Like things like that a lot of us didn't know. And so I started awkwardly just going up to people that I thought were my age, which looking back is probably a problematic move to assume certain things. And I was like, hi, I'm Lexi. I'm new. Are you new? Oh, you don't know what's going on either? Great. Let's do lunch. Because I was just looking for people. So, and over time, this became a thing. And I got to like literally senior leadership was like, this sounds cool. We'll give you money for it. So it's, but by the time that I left NetApp, we had like this amazing rotation. They actually hired a program manager in HR to run Bagel and like just build it out. We had a monthly leadership series. The leader would come and talk to us. And that's also how I got to meet leaders because I would have to go find the leaders to talk. And I'd be like, hi, I'm Lexi. I don't know what's going on, but like, you'd be great to tell us your story. You want to come on Friday? Come on Friday. I'll talk to your admin. Bye. Right. And of course, again, they were like, who is this Black girl just walking around and like going up to the CEO and being like, can you come talk to me about some stuff? Because I don't know what's going on. And I think that part of it, they were honored. And then part of it, they were just so perplexed that they were like, okay, like worst case scenario, I show up and this is a complete waste of time. But every major leader wants to hang out with a 22-year-old that thinks they're Beyonce. Loves it, right?
Yeah.
I started giving budget for food. Like they'd be like, well, Lexi, here, I'll give you $500 when I show up. And then like, y'all can actually have food. So I was just like catering stuff in. We had a whole vendor list. Okay. We had a diversity supplier program for Bagel. At the time, I didn't call it that. I was just like, if you gonna give me money, I'm gonna give it to Black people. So yeah, come on, Caribbean restaurant. Let's get these oxtails on Friday, right? But I was doing the work. And so fast forward to Airbnb, I went to Airbnb and Airbnb had programs like that. But what was lacking for me was I was the only Black person in legal. And we had a Black ERG, an employee resource. And I would go once a month to our meetings and I loved it. And shout out to all of the Black people at Airbnb, not only when I was there, but still continuing doing the work. And we were this small and mighty group. Airbnb was only 2,000 people. So that's why we were so small. But I didn't have people that could actually help me with my actual work problems. I had community at work that I could go and talk to about like systemic problems. Like, oh, this person said this. How do I navigate that? Because that wasn't cool. Or like, oh, I'm having this hard conversation with my manager. How would you do it? Right? I had community to have lunch with, to have breakfast with, to hang out on the weekends with. But I didn't have anyone that I could talk to about how do I show up and show out in these meetings with these leaders? How do I tell a C-suite member of this company that they are late on their deliverable from last week? And nobody could tell me that. So I decided to start a group like very similar to NetApp. And I was like, someone needs to tell me how to do my job.
So in many ways, it was in part to meet your own, not just to provide community for others, but to also help meet this need
No,
that
in all
you
the ways.
had.
No, in all the ways. It was 100% selfish starting. It had nothing to do with any of y'all. It was literally me being like, I don't know how to do my job. Who would like to teach me? And if Iris wants to come to and get a chicken and a waffle, that's great. Like, no shade to Iris. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop your freedom fight. But this is not about you, sis. I know what's going on. And if you get some learnings too, blessings. That's what Sista Circle was.
Yeah.
And then what happened was that over time, I was like, oh, cool. Other people enjoy this. Okay, I'll keep calling up restaurants and asking for a reservation for 30. And then what happened one day, I'll never forget, I was at Airbnb because we had free food. And I was like,
yeah,
how many of these other women, like these other 100 women in this Facebook group right now, also have free food? And I'll never forget, because a lot of these tech companies, unfortunately, a lot of the Black resource is in the food program and the security program, which is horrible, and a separate conversation about non-equity. But the plus side was that, guess what? I knew all of them. We were all kinfolk. So I remember I went to Dave. He was the head of security. He sat in the front. I said, Dave, how many people could I theoretically bring to breakfast every day? It's problematic. And he was like, are you asking how many Black people could you? I was like, yes. 10. And I was like, bet. And so I went in the group and I was like, who wants to come for breakfast at Airbnb? Because I was like, instead of spending my money to eat with you, many of us work at these companies that give us free food. And so I started just hosting free breakfasts at Airbnb.
Yeah.
People each, that was the policy.
I remember.
I'd be like, come eat. And then other women would be like, well, you want to come to Uber? And I'd be like, yeah. And then other women would be like, well, I have some slots at Facebook. It'd be like, yeah. And so we started just doing these mini breakfast sessions at all these companies with free food. Because it was like, if I'm going to eat, might as well have my bagel while talking to Iris and getting to know her and seeing how we connect. And that's what formed Sista Circle. And then now we have what it has over the years. Now we have partnerships and logos and websites and like missions and curriculums. But it did start with this idea of, can someone tell me how to do this as a Black woman? Because none of these people are telling me how to do it. And I think that I'm going to fail. I'm either A, going to be the angry Black woman, or B, I'm not going to be aggressive enough in these meetings, and then I won't get my job done, and then therefore I fail.